Ladies and gentlemen, James Hird has suggested that the Pies are not a top 4 team going into next season. Let's see if there's any good reasoning behind it. It's time to talk all things black and white. Now, I wanted to do a reaction to this expert opinion because it's a popular, or it's certainly a discussion between the fan base and an anxiety that exists right now, not knowing where the Pies will be next year. Are we going to be top 4? Are we going to fall out of the top 8? Is it going to be falling off a cliff like a Richmond or a West Coast? These are all thoughts that are festering in our mind. And I think James Hird is quite a reasonable person and doesn't look to cling on to headlines so much. So let's hear what he has to say, and then we can go from there and see if we agree and respectfully agree or disagree. Okay, so let's go from here. Let's go.
If they don't significantly move forward in the talent on their list, they're not a top 4 team.
Yeah, right, okay. So we've been asking the question really since they lost to the Giants at the start of the season. When will they fall off the cliff? You know, when is that going to come?
Yeah.
Do you believe that's in real danger, or do you think they can continue to stay at the top of their game for most of next year?
I don't believe they'll fall off a cliff as in fall out of the finals, but I don't believe they're the top end bracket of the finals with the team they have now, with the way they finish the season, and again the age of the players going another year. So I think they're bottom of the eight list at the moment. Unless they get more talent in. Oliver changes that. Oliver at his best changes that. Oliver, the way he's played this year, probably changes a little bit. But they need that key forward. And I still have some doubts of their defence without Jeremy Howe. And what did he play? One game in 8 or 9 weeks last year. In the last 8 or 9 weeks last.
All right, so I've just jotted down a few things to rebut, and then we can go from there. Okay, so he doesn't necessarily believe Collingwood would bottom out and fall off a cliff, so to speak. And when have we last seen Collingwood stuck to the bottom of the ladder for a long time? In my lifetime, right? I think about, let's go from let's say 2010s, 2020s and whatnot, right? So we bottom out in 2021, 2020, and then we bounce back. We bottom out after the stretch with 2010, 2011, 2012, and then 3, 4, 5 years there we weren't terrible, but we weren't a finals team, right? So those were our bottom out periods in the times that I can remember. We can talk about the early 2000s or the period just after that. And then the brief period we had in the 90s. You get the point, right? We're not always to the bottom for a long time, but James Hird does not foresee a Richmond period happening or a West Coast period happening. But in saying that, again, absolute worst case, say we do get there. West Coast won a flag, and yes, they're eating shit right now. Richmond won 3 flags, and they're eating shit now. So it comes at a cost, guys, this success. It is a natural process. But the question is, what can we do as a club to ensure that we don't have to hit the bottom of the barrel and stay there for too long? What can we do to ensure that we find ourselves bouncing back as quickly as possible? And that's just by trying to maintain a healthy list helps, because Scott Pendlebury and Sidebottom, in the way that they played this year, if they are healthy and available next year, it helps if they can tie that in with if they can move out of position and play forward and play halfback like a Pendles and stay healthy and guide Ed Allen, Di Mattia, Will Parker, Joel Cochran, Charlie West. We'll get there, okay? So we start with James Hird suggesting that we won't fall off the cliff. We'll be a bottom 8 side, bottom of the top 8, right? So, and I genuinely don't disagree with that from the get-go. If you ask me right now, pre-trade period, where are we? I would say we're a bottom top 8 side, because we do need to start filtering in some younger players. And yes, Brisbane did that this year, but those players they're bringing in are either already stars. You've got Logan Morris, star. Levi Ashcroft's going to be a star. Will Ashcroft, under 22, superstar. Kai Lohman. So, while they have given us some optimism that you can go younger and win a flag the next year, I think we've got players who have served apprenticeships in the VFL, but aren't quite potentially to the level of those Brisbane players. But it's still to be seen. So that ties in with age, which James Hird mentioned. And then he goes on to say that Clayton Oliver at his best changes the Pies. And I completely agree. Oliver, in the form he's in right now, like, do we dare say, can he be the Tom Mitchell of 2023 and have a longer career, a longer expiry date that sees us get a bit more of a squeeze for a longer period with Oliver? Oliver at his best is going to be better than Tom Mitchell at his best in 2023. So that's a scary prospect. And we'd be licking our lips at what Oliver could do for us at the price we can get him for in 2026. We're going to find out in a couple of days. Stay tuned. He mentions key forward. What's the key forward question mark? So my check goes. Elliott stays. The thing is, we have done well in 22 and 23 with an unrecognized key forward. I mean, Myercheck was the guy. If McStay comes back in and vindicates himself and Membry's available, Charlie West, you just don't know. We keep saying, look at Logan Morris, look at Cal Shadir. You just don't know how quickly someone can come into this position. But as I mentioned, 22, 23, we didn't have a truly recognized key tall forward. Like, Myercheck, yes, he's 6'4", but he's not a contested mark aerial presence like other teams have. So we won a flag without that, because why? We're able to rotate a DC and a Mason Cox through the forward line and a ruck. So then you think about Oscar Steen. You think about Jack Buller, who's coming through. Can he play that role if Mason Cox isn't there? Oscar Steen, where does he fit into that, as I just said? And then the last one is defense, Jeremy Howe. So despite Jeremy Howe playing only one game in the last 8 weeks, over the course of the year, we didn't have Darcy Moore at times. We didn't have Billy Frampton at times. There were players missing for a large period, or at least 3-4 weeks, right? We had to play with Charlie Dean. We lost Reef early in the season. So, I don't know. This one, like, people make out our defense to be the biggest issue going into this offseason. I mean, we were the number 1 ranked defensive side for the year. We've opted out of Stephen May. So to me, if we were hell-bent on rectifying our defensive woes, why aren't we signing Stephen May? Why didn't we bend over backwards for Jack Silvani? I think we're all right for now. We've got Billy Frampton, Brazzy, Perryman, Quaynor, 2 of those who finished top 5 in our Copen, right? Darcy Moore. Jeremy Howe, yes, that's a question mark. Reef comes back. What does he do? Noah Howes has been tried in the back line. So, I don't know. I think we are comfortable with, if our system is right, if our forward half game is right, our defense will be okay for at least next year. And then we can look at potential key defenders in free agency. So it's an interesting take. He wasn't sensationalizing any points and overreacting and any over-exaggerations, James Hird. I think it's a reasonable conversation. I think a lot of people were asking in the fan base, are we a top 4 team? Are we top 8? I would say right now we are top 8 pre-trade. And next, there's a lot of question marks. It's just about those VFL players who are AFL listed, who have served 2-3 years as an apprentice in the VFL. What can they do to help keep Collingwood in this period? Because if that's a bust, then it becomes problematic with regards to the age profile, which is a real conversation. So we'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And as always, go Pies.